Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. Welcome to the first ever second match, Osiris Invitational. This is something that's new, it's brand new, it looks really cool to be able to participate in, and it's something that all 8 of these alliances have worked so hard for to get to this point. We've got a match already in the books. You saw it on this channel just finishing less than an hour ago. HKL taking out FN and scoring a point for Realm of Horus. This is something that I think everybody needs to understand is just a little bit different than Osiris League, okay? We've got Osiris League, we've got the Ark of Osiris matchups. This is a different mode, guys, and I want to make sure you understand exactly why and how you can win Osiris Invitational once you actually make it there. It's very, very difficult to get here, first off. You have to go through a long process to make that happen. But there's a bunch of things that you need to understand inside of Osiris Invitational as we go into this next matchup. We've got 3 matchups today, which I'll also preface right before. And then once this matchup is over, we're going to go ahead and do a recap of all 3 of those matches here at the end of the stream too. So you have everything you need nicely and tight packed in just one stream. So first off, everybody has the same commanders. Everybody's got the same number of troops. You've got T5 and T1. I was curious to see that there's no T4 in case people wanted to do something a little bit different for Ark delivery, but that's what we've got. We've got Tier 5 units, 2 million each, and we've got 500,000 Tier 1 Cav units. That can be for a multitude of different ways. I'm interested to see how the alliances utilize these particular troop types in the Osiris Invitational. Now, again, this whole setup reminds me of a little bit of an Ark of Osiris flavored Light and Darkness KVK. So it's a point-based system, guys. It's not about necessarily how many points you win by or any of those types of measuring factors. It's a win or a lose. You get a point or you don't get a point. That's it. So other things that are equal, again, you've got the buffs here, which are very, very low. You don't have any extra buffs like your alliance technologies, your shrines, your altars inside of your home kingdom. This is making it as even as humanly possible so that the winner of the Osiris Invitational will be crowned champion of Osiris Invitational. But just as importantly, it's because they did the strategies that helped them win for their realm. We've got the Realm of Horus and the Realm of Anubis. When we start looking at the other matches that are going to be coming up today with just over 2 minutes left, we've got JWM versus NBA1, 2 huge alliances inside of each one of these realms. We've also got JWM2, which your sponsored content creator that you saw last time, Gecko, is going to be taking on 411K, who is the reigning champion of the Realm of Anubis Osiris League. And then finally, you've got OV, who is the original Season 1 Osiris League champion when there were no realms, it was just Osiris League, versus NCB, who has consistently been in the end of the playoffs in all of these matchups throughout Osiris League, and now have found their way into Osiris Invitational Round 1. This is the first one, guys. I'm really excited to bring this to you. We wanted to do the JWM versus NBA1 matchup because this really is 2 of the powerhouse alliances inside of this game. All of these in their own way are the same way, but this is the one that we chose to do. Again, at the very end of the stream, we're going to be doing JWM2 versus 411K. We'll give you the results of that. And then OV, we're going to give you versus NCB, the results of that. So as we start to kind of wind down to the last minute, I would love to see in the chat, who do you think is going to win this matchup? Is it going to be hashtag JWM or is it going to be hashtag NBA1? We saw a fantastic match just under an hour ago where HKL continued their dominance from the end of Osiris League Season 2 and beat FN pretty soundly with solid tactics that we've seen throughout the first season of Osiris League. FN obviously having their first taste last season in Osiris League Season 2. They're getting into it as well. So this is going to be interesting to see. I want to make sure y'all are aware as well. I'm going to be your main host casting this cast for you guys, and also Chiscool will be joining me from Chiscool Gaming. So our links to our YouTube channels are in the description below. We are sponsored content creators for Rise of Kingdoms. So I want to make sure that you have that information. You're going to see our graphics, all that good stuff. This is going to be a great match, guys. I'm really interested. We've got just a few seconds left. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go pop out and then pop right back in to see if I can bring it up And sure enough, I can. So what I'm going to do is hit the watch button. Then I'm going to transition over. Chisco, 10 seconds, coming in hot, and we'll see you there.
What is going on, Governors? Chisco here. We're going to be watching this exciting matchup, the best of the best, battling in the Osiris Invitational. If you had any question as to whether or not people's gear or commanders were making a difference, well, set all that aside. This matchup, both sides have the same commanders to work with, the same buffs to work with. I'm really excited to see how this plays out and who will reign supreme in this matchup as the two realms go head to head. I mean, Dragothian, how are you feeling, one realm or the other? Which do you think is going to come out on top in this Osiris Invitational?
I think it's a really good toss-up. If we hadn't seen Osiris League Season 2, Chisco, I think we would have easily just kind of said, hey, Realm of Horus just has more experience. They've been doing it for longer. Now, we kind of took away from the last season, right? That's not even close to the case. Realm of Anubis has a lot of folks that played in Season 1 in different alliances in earlier kingdoms. And not only that, but also just the strategies, right? 411K looked very solid throughout that Osiris League playoff for Realm of Anubis. So did FN, so did NBA1. All these guys have done a great job in really bringing that realm into the forefront. And I think really it's going to be a toss-up. That's why we're having these matchups. I think that ultimately, if it was going to be a foregone conclusion, right, we could have saved ourselves a little trouble and said check, 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 check here and check, 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 check there. And it's not going to be a tie, but maybe one person wins. So I think this is going to be the fun part, Chisco, the fun part of watching how these alliances adjust to the rules of the Osiris Invitational.
Yes, any commander you could possibly want. I mean, this is like the holidays have come early, right? Have all the commanders, all this max star, max level. You can reset their talents as much as you want. I mean, this is the dream. And teams got to practice with this set of rules, and so they can figure out exactly how it works and what the optimal combinations are. I think we're going to see the teams that have prepared the most are likely to come out on top. I'll be looking for who is being used as a garrison captain. I'll be looking for who is being used to rally and what pairs are used in the field. 5 seconds until the gates open. 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
Yeah, let's look to see what these strategies start to unfold. Obviously, at the beginning of the match, you're going to want to capture your obelisks as soon as possible. That's why you see Box with a Tier 1 March of Cav coming out, making sure that they can get to this obelisk over here as quickly as possible. Is this full T1 as well? I believe it is. From this player right here, Double C led March as well. Those are off to the races. Let's check over on the NBA1 side and see. Yeah, we're not doing any of that here. Let's see. So they're going to use this. They're going to use this caravan here to go ahead and re-engage. Nope, they're going to skip it. They're going to go right to the outpost instead. There's a little bit of an indecision there from NBA1 side. Now I popped back in and did it. So interesting how they're doing that right off the bat. We've got Double C from both armies and Belisarius over here on the bottom side as well. They're capturing quick, guys.
Yes, they are. First capture going to JWM, and I am really eager to see how this goes. In the previous match, we saw that one side captured the structures much, much, much faster than the opposing side. We may be off to a similar start here as JWM, 2 structures to 0 right now. There we go. NBA1 putting a structure onto the board, outpost of Seth, as they move from Caravan to then the Obelisk. I am really eager to see how this plays out, because look, for me, this might not seem like a big deal, but this part of the match, it really signals how coordinated the team is or isn't, how prepared they are or aren't. And as I watch one March from NBA1 walk right past the outpost, ignoring it for the speed boost, I start to wonder if they've done all their homework here. Is this signaling, as we see obelisk number 1, boom, going to JWM? I mean, so far, the folks in blue grabbing those structures. There we go. Obelisk flipping over to red as well. Still the structure count in favor of JWM. Yet another structure. I don't know. This could be signaling, foretelling of what's to come.
Yeah, there's just those few seconds, right? Those first few seconds where everything matters. And right now, JWM has started the timers on both of their obelisks, whereas NBA1 has one with 30 seconds down, and then the other one is just about to be captured by Fury here, Fury Jerry, just capturing it. So now that 3-minute timer starts. And if we look at the same obelisk on the other side, it's already down by 34, 35 seconds. So that's a head start from a teleport standpoint that snowballs throughout the match. You get those teleports every few minutes whenever you're talking about generating teleports throughout the match. And then also teleporting in first is very critical when you're getting this match started. The first teleporters get to rally first. They get their armies on the field first. They get to position first. There's a lot of value into getting early in the game up to the forefront instead of being stuck in your base. Now we've got 2 minutes left on all these forward-facing structures. We've got the shrines, the altars. Those have 2 minutes left before they can be captured, but I see quite a few of these marches coming in from JWM on the bottom lane, passing their Shrine of War. Some of them look like they're going to land there, but we've got a few players positioning forward to the no man's land in between these sets of structures. And we're going to see how this goes. I think that ultimately there's going to be some clashes going on. Some rallies are going to start popping out very soon. Let's take a look really quick at that. There's 2 on each side, and it looks like they're going to their own obelisks, I believe. Nope,
Yeah,
they're going to enemy obelisks.
I'll just kind of jump in and I want to talk for just a second why I think this initial structure capping is such a strong signal is that, look, you don't even have to interface with the opposing team's game plan yet, right? And so to be slow on some of these structures, almost a minute and 20 seconds behind on one of these outposts, it's just free points to be giving away. Um, I am worried for NBA 1 as I do see a bunch of JWM marches parked right by the NBA 1 altar as well. This could get pretty spicy.
Yeah, I'm looking at a rally passing the desert altar here on the bottom lane of their own side, traveling towards the obelisk, and then we're going to see if they're going to break some of this stuff and try and ninja capture some of either the Shrine of War or the Shrine of the Sky Altar here. Not many over here at the Sky Altar on the bottom lane for JWM, but that Shrine of War looks very stacked with plenty of players. Top lane taking a peek, same idea from JWM. Lots of people around that inside of the top lane looking to support the Desert Altar being attacked early on. Same thing with the Shrine of War, some players over there. Taking a look at the NBA side, Chiskel, it doesn't seem like they have quite as many players around these structures, although now that we're looking at it, buildings are getting captured. Let's see what pops up.
This is exciting. We would expect to see these go to both sides even, and actually JWM a little slow on the Shrine of Life. They do have 2 players there, including a Julius Caesar, which is an interesting choice when you've got all the commanders at your disposal. Interesting. Okay, there we go. It converts over. A little slow on the uptick. So I feel better now about NBA 1 grabbing these structures, and they're already getting swarmed by folks from JWM, but plenty of presence here on both sides as we've got a pretty even board. So this is where we would expect to see rallies start rolling in, and we do. I see a ton of rallies on the board. Gosh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that 8 rallies that JWM is leading?
Rallies from the blue team, JWM. Conversely, 2 red from NBA 1 rallies going out. That, again, it's going to be hard to rally whenever you haven't taken your obelisk on the bottom side. And now they're just starting to teleport in. Let's see if they start to even that rally count out. Looks like they are.
Wow. I mean, JWM taking a page from the playbook of HKL, who rallies all the things at all the times. Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration, but maybe it isn't, because 8 rallies is very aggressive, and I like it. I like it. Make the opponent react. They have to play your game. You have to respond to a rally.
Yeah, I agree. And NBA 1 already starting the nuisance game a little bit. They've got a player assigned, it looks like, to harass the outposts in the back of JWM's lines. JWM surprisingly does have an army inside of here, but it is going down relatively quickly with 2 full marches, one Attila-led and one Saladin-led march going strong against that. That one's going to be taken. Then we switch over to the Shrine of War, where we have what looks like single armies trying to hit the Shrine of War on the top lane of NBA 1. from JWM, and it's not obviously going to go very well because not only is that a full garrison, but just as importantly, there is good field support around that structure as well from NBA1. So even though it was a little bit of a slower start for NBA1, they currently have a 10-point per minute advantage in their favor. They are down by 90 points as well, but that should start evening out once we start getting some of these first occupation bonuses.
On the topic of structures, we've got a ninja grab by JWM for the obelisk. Super savage, disrupting the flow of teleport gain for NBA1. And in 2 minutes and 30 seconds, they can teleport up and do stuff. Would you teleport forward to the opposing side of the battlefield, just hypothetically?
So if they're going to do it, now's the time, because there's not that many cities around this obelisk to really defend against maybe somebody who's swarming. Now, again, if this was Osiris League Chisco or Ark of Osiris, there's some differences, right? You could have a 500 million power player, which you have in this matchup, by the way, guys. There's multiple hundreds of million power players in this matchup. Because you can swarm with so many troops, you can sit there and just swarm somebody's cities down, and it doesn't matter because you have enough troops to bring out. But with the Osiris Invitational, everybody's got the same amount of troops. So with that being said, if you port forward and you start swarming a city, because you can't send a rally right off the bat, they're going to be all the way across the map, all your friends. So it's going to be difficult to do anything about it if you do something like that.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting to see the choices being made to defend the altar's very important structure. Wu Zetian, primary, Yisong, secondary, being deployed by the folks in NBA1. And if we get a look up at the Shrine of War, we do see Artemisia defending that structure on behalf of JWM. Remember, both sides have access to every single commander, completely maxed out. So theoretically, what we should be seeing here is what each team believes to be the very best in the game for each of these activities.
Yeah, there's some back and forth on is Artemisia the right play versus, say, Charles Constantine or something like that against Attila Takeda currently, Attila Takeda. However, with these new commanders that are coming out, Chisco, that's going to be, I was thinking about that whenever we were starting to prep for Osiris Invitational. Man, once those two new commanders come out, which look to be direct counters to Attila Takeda, we might actually start to see some non-Attila Takeda rallies coming in Osiris League, and then certainly the Osiris Invitational, where you have access to every commander in the game. That's really interesting to see if maybe some strategies start changing and different garrisons and being able to be flexible inside of those garrisons. I think that's something that you're going to start to see a lot more of as we start to get these new commanders into the game.
Yeah, although NBA1 struggled to get a foothold on the left-hand side of the map at the start because they were delayed in capturing their obelisk, their pressure right now on the JWM Shrine of War is undeniable. Artemisia holding on by the skin of her teeth, trying to do some area of effect damage here to weed through the swarm that is beating down onto that structure. The folks in NBA1 looking to capture this if they can to get that crucial 10% swing, which they just did. Capturing that structure, they take away 10% of stats from JWM and collect them for themselves. So a nice swing in stats there as then they try to swing around to the center. But gosh, if you look at the center, JWM, 1 minute, 45 seconds till the arc spawns in. They've already got a pretty moderate presence into the center. And if you look around the top, NBA1 captured that desert altar and they're swinging around there too. NBA1 is making a really solid set of plays now after having that slow start.
Yep. As you were looking and commentating through that Shrine of War capture, right before the Desert Altar was taken at the top, and as soon as they captured it, NBA1 swung all 15 of those armies right to the middle. They're all meeting in the middle right behind. That's forcing JWM to pull back to address it because guess what? Now you've got 20 armies right behind all of your troops that you were going to go ahead and just pull that arc back easy peasy, right? Now we've got players who need to not only be focused on getting this arc, which spawns in less than 1 minute, but now they've got a ton of armies to deal with on the battlefield behind them. That was an excellent play by NBA1. JWM taking that Shrine of War back from a swarm by JWM. And then also looks like this Wu and the Desert Altar will also swing back in JWM's favor finally. But again, because they don't have anything captured, no buffs from the Shrine of War yet. And then also, again, they're not generating points from either one of those structures. That was a double win for NBA1, and now they've got presence in the field behind JWM. And then when we look at the bottom towards NBA1, Chisco, there's more NBA1 coming up from the bottom. They're going to get sandwiched. JWM's going to get
Yeah.
sandwiched.
Well, what I find remarkable here about those captures is that they capped and abandoned because, JWM rather took them back and also briefly took, it seems, the Sky Altar belonging to NBA1. So a lot of structures changing hands. Shrine of Life now going in favor of JWM. Very solid pickup here. So if the structure game is going to go even, and honestly, right now, NBA1 is leading the points for that, then this arc is going to be really important. Sirius grabbing the arc, war drums being cast by JWM in the middle of the battlefield here to try to aid the combat. That arc looks like it's standing still, needs to get moving. And there we no, still on my screen.
It's in JWM's hands, but it's not
in
moving.
their hands, but it's not going anywhere.
And now it's down again.
Awkward.
Yeah.
So now we see what I'll say is this, it's sometimes hard to control all the marches on the field at the exact same time. I personally find it challenging. It's only 5 marches, but man, there's so many things to do all at once in this game mode. I love it. JWM grabbed it briefly, then loses control again, giving NBA1 plenty of time to get back into the center, and also JWM some time to reinforce, as NBA1 is actually kind of controlling the back line of JWM, which I think is pretty solid, cutting off the reinforcements that are trying to get in there. Oopsie picking up the arc and now starting to move that thing. Where do you think they're going to take it?
If they're smart, they're going to take it to the Desert Altar at the top. That's where they've got the most presence, I believe. You've got people on the field right around it. You've got people on the nodes around it, the little gathering nodes, the caravans. I don't think they should take it back to the caravan because, like I said, or the outpost, because, like I said, they have somebody back here dedicated to harassing these things. So it's just going to make it a lot more complicated if they go right back. However, right now it looks pretty clear. JWM is starting to clean the map up. I was taking a peek at some of the marches that were heading back for NBA1 with sad faces. I'm seeing a lot of Ramses-led armies, while again, Ramses is very good at dealing damage, especially if you're pairing him up with, say, Tamiris or a YSG, or even a Frederick would be really good with him, especially considering you've got every single commander available to you. They're kind of squishy, too, with archers being a little bit squishier than most. And then on top of that, just in general, there's a lot of cav on the battlefield, which are direct counter to archers. So on the other hand, with JWM side, I see a lot of infantry. I see Alex. I see a lot of cav with Genghis. I see Attila's out there. There is a couple archers here too. I do see Edwards. I do see a couple Ramses as well. But ultimately, I think that NBA1, those marches are thinning out a lot quicker than I think they wanted or anticipated, just because of maybe the troop selection might not have been, or the commander selection rather, not exactly what they should have in the middle. Lots of tank is required inside the middle zone. You want to have a lot of infantry, a lot of healing, a lot of march speed reduction, all that stuff, and infantry are great at that. Just cool.
Yeah, well, that arc is moving downfield, just dropped now, and it's so far back into the JWM side of the map, it's going to be extremely difficult for NBA1 to make any meaningful contest toward this arc unless they already happen to have a bunch of troops in the backline, and they just don't. JWM took a bunch of these structures, and these keep trading back and forth, which is simply going to deny a lot of point gain for both sides, although JWM sitting at 590 points per minute right now. They are definitely catching up on that. And with this arc pretty firmly in control, they are going to be able to gain a little bit of a lead here.
Yeah, I'm noticing the map here. We've got a lot of rallies coming out from JWM side, and just not as many as JWM is from NBA1. So, I mean, NBA1 sending out 2-3 rallies at a time, but I see a lot of red buildings blinking almost constantly. And you're seeing it on the battlefield here. JWM capturing an extra altar and an extra Shrine of War. And they're also still assaulting the bottom obelisk here with about an even-ish, although it looks like that Attila rally is going to go down. But they also, again, they've got the key, right? They've got the key that they just fought for in the middle. They've got the arc. They're bringing it back. Looks like they're going to grab it at the outpost right there, which looks fairly clear. I don't see any red armies from NBA1 coming over to harass that. JWM pulling out to the sides now, having firmly secured the arc here, coming up to the outpost. I never want to say it's exactly done, but I don't see anything red on the map at all around this outpost. So with that being said, let's start jumping back to the map and starting to take a look at this Take a look at these buildings that are currently blinking on the top lane. You've got the Sky Altar, Chisco. Walk me through what's going on here.
So if I get a look at the Sky Altar in the top lane, it's converting over to JWM. They've got a minute and 20 seconds left until that flips over to their side, and a bunch of fighting in the field south of it. I actually really like that choice. I I often think that teams allow the enemy to just sort of free walk right up to the structure and start swarming it, which means that structure is in a lot of peril. So I like the play of positioning south of it and battling in the field, because you can see now even JWM is just picking off these marches as they make a beeline for the Sky Altar. I actually think it would make more sense to try to clear the field than clear the altar. But they're just going straight to that altar, and they're going to try to swarm that down. And is that Attila Takeda defending it?
It is Attila Takeda defending it. That's what they rallied it with. They did not change any type of garrison. If it's full cav, and you've got a Ramses rallying, I mean, why would you change it? That's a great counter to a Ramses anything, right? It looks like it's a Ramses Tamiris, I believe. Or no, Ramses, might be Ramses YSG. Either way, no, it's Ramses Tamiris, it looks like. But either way, it just got melted, absolutely melted. Again, we talked about it earlier. Ramses, while it does have a defense buff on him and just in general, has a little bit of tankiness for an Archer Commander, he's still an Archer Commander. And even with having the field presence that NBA1 had around that rally, it looks like Baba there and Justin were both able to just swarm that rally down with no problems whatsoever. And now we've got Attila holding a swarm against this NBA1 onslaught on the open field. And we all know how devastating, even though it looks like it is going down, we all know how devastating an Attila Takeda is with a swarm.
Yeah, just the amount of counterattack damage that Attila Takeda has really punishes the armies that are doing the swarming. And I can't believe that Attila Takeda defense is really a thing. I think to your point earlier about the new commanders that are leadership based coming into the game, it will be really interesting to see if perhaps this dynamic changes a little bit. But for now, that seems to be the most efficient tactic available. Rally with Attila Takeda, leave them in to be the captains, and have people send cavalry. And because everybody's got access to every single commander in this game mode, you can coordinate that.
Yeah, pretty easily. And again, NBA1 taking this altar back, finally sending all those armies back with sad faces there, but it was very expensive and very time consuming. And again, looking at the points per minute. Not only did JWM capture that arc, that first arc, which gives you a good chunk of points there, but also you're talking about 590 points per minute versus 150 points per minute. That's a double win for JWM right now. NBA1 started out fantastically, taking out structures from JWM. I don't know if JWM was necessarily ready for that punch in the mouth, but JWM has responded very, very well. Rallies going everywhere. We've got the obelisk getting rallied down here, and it looks like maybe there's a city rally here too, but I have to think they're not rallying the city, they're rallying so that they can reinforce this rally. But actually this is mixed troops, so that's definitely not the case. It's an Attila Takeda rally with mixed troops. That's not good. Somebody's going to get kicked out of Discord or something to that effect because somebody joined with infantry instead of cav like they were supposed to. I think, again, I had the right idea, but I think the execution from JWM was a little off on that reinforcement rally.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
Happens to the best of us. I do love the new addition into the game that lets you indicate on the rally screen what type of troops you're looking for. That is, I think, a pretty nice feature. And, the structure game, looking about even. JWM doing some definite disruption in the back line at the outposts, two of those flipping sides here. They do have a full 3 marches doing that disruption, as I see Freddie Mehmed, not what I would have selected given every single commander available. Freddie Mehmed defending an outpost of Seth.
We do what we can do, right? I wonder if this was an extra from the middle fight or something like that, because, honestly, right, we have a lot speedier commanders, and certainly I'm assuming this was a mixed army or something to that effect. A lot speedier troops to utilize as well inside of the Osiris Invitational playoffs. I don't necessarily think that was the best combination either, Chisco, but sometimes we got to use what we've got in the situation we got it in. I'm assuming that's what ended up happening there.
I like the idea, though, right? Like, Freddie and Mehmed, you get a lot of extra troops. If you're going to solo hold one of these outposts,
yeah,
You get a
Yeah.
lot more troops. I think you would have thought it maybe some garrison commanders, but maybe that was just an offensive march that happened to be in the right place at the right time, which also would be really interesting if JWM is indicating or signaling here that they think that's a good march in the open field.
I mean, so again, you just talked about it, right? More troops is always better. When you're talking about the middle, especially if somebody's coming in here with 310,000 troops versus 365 or 370,000 troops, there's an advantage there. Even though it might not necessarily be the best single troop type commander combination or something like that, there is a value to having 60,000 more troops than your opponent in a single army. Now, I think you're right. I think that's actually a very good idea to have a double leadership commander kind of be, just on one outpost and make that theirs. The problem is it's going to take half the match to actually arrive unless they rally it. But the actual garrison and thought behind it makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of sense there. With the,
It does.
yeah, with the map being kind of even, looks like JWM again taking back the Sky Altar on the top lane here away from NBA1. It just seems like NBA1 can't keep their structures for more than a few minutes before JWM is already sending it. You know what that reminds me of? Who did they fight in Osiris League Season 1 in the finals?
OV.
Yeah, so got OV, and then also Season 2, we've got HKL. HKL definitely reminds me, like, this is what reminds me of OV and HKL. They were a relentless onslaught of rallies, and every time I'm on this top lane, Chisco, I see JWM rallies rolling by, whether it's going to an outpost or going to a city or going to an obelisk or going to the shrine or the altar. It's nonstop coming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, interestingly, NBA1 deploying Richard the First to be a garrison captain at the Desert Altar. I don't know if this is something that all the folks in this realm sort of aligned on using Richard the First, since we saw that in the last matchup we cast on this channel as well. But Richard the First in the garrison, not what I would pick, because look, there's at least 3 Ramses hitting this structure right now, and Ramses, when expertise, cuts off all healing for 2 seconds. That's the main punch of Richard's active skill, his heals.
Yeah, once Ramses came out, what was it, a month or two ago? He basically nullified this combination. This used to be devastating in Ark of Osiris, right? We saw this nonstop. Richard with something, whether it's Richard with Wu, Richard with Charles, Richard with Constantine. This was the counter to Attila Takeda in Ark because you just kept bringing back troops, no problem at all. But with Ramses on the field, he basically nerfs Richard inside of a garrison with that heal. So as soon as you see a Ramses army coming to attack your Richard-led garrison, JWM taking that structure, you might want to think about maybe sending another pairing to go ahead and either switch it inside the structure or go ahead and send it to actually reinforce it and replace, because that's not going to work out very well.
I mean, I see somebody's using. Is that a Charlemagne that I see by the Shrine of Life?
Please tell me where so I can.
By the Shrine of Life, this is amazing. I mean, look, what I'll say is that as different commanders come into the game, the most efficient tactic available, the meta, shifts. And for me, when Ramses entered into the game, the healing of Richard really lost its luster. And I do feel that after that happened, it became much more efficient to use a commander like Charles Martel in the same role. We do see the Temple of Osiris is open for contention. NBA1 grabbing the Ark. They need this Ark to stay in the match and to get the score a little bit more evened up, because JWM is pulling down more than double the amount of structure points right now every single minute. And that Ark has dropped. The fight in the middle, very, very contentious. I would have to think that they are abandoning a lot of their other positions on the field to make their way into the center. And I do think NBA1 has that dominant presence in the center right now.
Yeah, they do. I mean, it's just a sea of red, and it's costing them, right? We just talked about it. They just lost the Shrine of Life. They lost both of their altars at one point. That's expensive. That's an expensive Ark to grab. They need to make sure that this is a very quick grab, and with the Ark actually being on the JWM side right now, that's going to take even longer to go ahead and bring that Ark back to NBA1's side. Now, it looks like they should be able to do it. They've got the inside lane pretty locked up from a troop perspective. Let me take a peek at the bottom and see if I see any JWM armies. It looks like there's a couple half health coming in, but overall, it looks like NBA1 has a pretty clear run to bring that arc back. But again, how costly was that? I mean, they lost everything almost.
Yeah, I think it was worth it for them. I think they had to get this arc. They came together really well to at least get a grab on this arc now. A few marches from JWM sneaking through to work on the carrier here, but I feel like this is pretty firmly in their control and that they've got enough marches committed to this activity that they will be able to score this arc. I do think it is pretty sneaky that JWM is taking out the outpost, which is being defended by a Minamoto primary. Interesting to see Minamoto as a primary, given the volume of commanders available that could be chosen from here. And now yet another structure flipping back over to JWM, that Shrine of Life. Looks like it got rallied perhaps by archers. I see Ramses is the captain here.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. And probably that Mina was just an open field army that they wanted to go ahead and they were probably just telling everybody, get people inside that outpost so they don't take it. That was the closest open field march, and that's why there's a Mina there. There's an Attila there that would probably be a better one as well, but it looks like he's walking off with that Guan in his hands there too. So this arc is coming back. It's got some struggles with the JWM march hitting it, but I think JWM just does not have enough here. They are probably focusing heavily on structures. Taking a look at the rallies list for JWM, there's 4 out now, 3 of which are either mobilizing or marching, 1 battling. Let's take a look at what's battling. That's the top lane Sky Altar. We've got another rally. It did just fail. However, there's still marches here, and JWM takes it. The rally failed, but the Swarm took it. How about that?
Swarms are undeniable. You get the buffs and debuffs of every single march engaged in the swarm, and for every march beyond the first hitting the structure, there is a 2% increased damage taken surround bonus by the garrison, which is pretty savage. 10 marches swarming down there is a pretty hefty bonus and is pretty meaningful. Looks like that did the trick. And yeah, it does look like the folks from NBA1 now said, okay, you can swarm it. Fine, we'll swarm you right back, and that Attila Takeda is going down pretty quickly. There you go, switched back. But see, this is what I was talking about earlier, right? All you have to do is snag that once, and you not only cut off the point gain for the opposing team, but for a full 3 minutes after they take it back, they still aren't scoring any points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the points are huge, and not only that, again, like they've had their structures taken on their own front lines pretty much the entire match. Like you said, it's flip-flopping back and forth quite a bit. That's a little bit demoralizing, right? Like you want to be pushing forward, you want to be the aggressor, and every time you turn around, you're losing a structure. It's like, oh my goodness. And speaking of which, there goes the Shrine of War back in favor of JWM. So it's just nonstop harassment from JWM here, and I don't understand quite how NBA1 can think that, hey, this is the time to push forward, because every time I bet they're trying to mobilize to push down the map, JWM's at their door knocking with Rally and Swarm on all their structures, and they just can't hold them.
Yeah, I think it is interesting that this arc seems to be moving toward the Shrine of War, which belongs to JWM. Little bit risky, but I think their altar on the opposing side is also getting attacked. It is, and there is another Freddy on the field, Freddy Mehmed. I don't know if it's the same player or a different one, but that seems to be a combo that at least a couple of their players are trying out. And do you think, Dragothian, do you think that they've gotten guidance from, their team leadership to say, like, hey, here are the 5 marches we think you should use in the open field?
I'm sure there's tons of that now, whether it's the right choice or whether it's, it can't be if you don't have the commanders, because you have everything here. So I've seen JWM use those leadership commanders quite frequently, and even in rallies, especially earlier in the seasons with Osiris League and even Ark of Osiris, when we were doing casting whenever it came out and it was brand new and everybody was excited about it. Now it's just like every other week everybody's doing it, and it's just the same old rotation, right? But the fun is still there. I've seen them use those leadership commanders quite often in the field, and I've never seen them be so mind-blowingly successful that I would continue to do that. But here we are in Osiris Invitational, and sure enough, like you said, twice now we've seen a Freddy Mehmed on the field, not only in open field combat, but also defending a structure. So
Yeah, that arc is moving slowly but surely back to safety for the folks in NBA1. They are getting harassed some amount by JWM, which normally I would say is not a good choice because those marches are definitely going to die. But here's the thing. You just got to look at the map real quick. How many marches would you say JWM is committing to the Ark of Osiris right now?
Maybe 5.
And how many marches do you think NBA1 has committed to defending the Ark of Osiris right now?
Just from what I see on my screen, close to 50.
Yeah, so there's the problem, right? Yeah. Is that they're way overcommitted to this arc at this point, and they need to be committed to it till they score it because they have to get this thing or they're really in trouble. But that's a lot of overcommitment that's preventing them from doing all the other things they need to be doing right now. And we do mean right now, with only 25 minutes remaining, even if they capture this arc, they not only need to get another arc, which there will be enough time to do, but they also need to get ahead a little bit on the structure game, which is simply not happening.
Yeah, I agree. And this Attila at the Shrine of War looks like it's about to go down. There it goes. But they did capture it, at least for a second there. And that generated just a smidgen of points. And not only that, it's delayed this arc from getting captured. Because I'm assuming, well, now the arc's down, by the way. Now they got to repick it up and remove it somewhere, whether that's an outpost, which is now in JWM's hands, the closest one. Maybe JWM will snag it and beeline it right for this outpost and take it anyway. Haka Voibe over here coming over with the arc to the right. Don't know exactly where he's going. He might be going to the back outpost over here on the bottom right. That would be, I guess, the safest place. But again, that's another probably 5 minutes of walking time, plus the fact that he's still getting hit by a JWM member, just slowing it down even further. JWM doing exactly what they need to be doing. Look how many, like you said, armies on the field NBA1 has just at this one spot. You're not close to any structures to help. You're not assaulting. There's no rallies. Like, there's no rallies for, well, there's one marching, but there's like, you see JWM rallies popping off all over the place because they have armies to fill them. Right now, NBA1's probably trying to find an army to put inside of a rally so they can send it.
Yeah, I have to imagine that the way that voice conversation was going is everybody get to the center and protect the arc. And then it's like, wait, nobody's left to lead a rally. We got to lead rallies, right? Like, I think that they're finding themselves in a spot of trouble from that. And phrasing that I've often used to describe this situation is that when a team falls behind, they need to start to take higher risk but lower percent chance of success opportunities and tasks on. And in this case, I think they need to disperse with all these marches that they've got protecting the arc. They just got to say, it's probably going to be fine. 10 people stay behind, 10 marches stay behind. Everybody else go do other things. And that's a little risky, right? Maybe JWM, but probably not. JWM's probably not going to handle that. And you got to start doing things that decrease your chance of success in any one thing that's really important to increase your chance of success in all the other things that need to be happening right now.
Yeah, I agree. And, they're still coming back. There's people coming back to the arc. They were leaving, and then there's one army still hitting that arc carrier. So all 15 people are coming back to the arc. And now that the arc is down, there's still an Edward army here sitting here. I mean, this arc has seen some things. I mean, this arc has seen some significant scenery in this map that maybe it hasn't seen before. It's seen this little pile of ruins over here, this little half-built building, the little demolished building over here right beside this caravan, and between the caravan and the set of cities for NBA1. It's never seen that before. It's getting its tour. It's not getting charged for it, other than the deaths of all these troops trying to stop it from getting captured. It's crazy to see how many armies are just for this one arc whenever you got rallies popping off everywhere for JWM. Now you've got 2 for JWM and 0 for NBA1 for the rallies.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong that arc is getting a tour of the countryside and probably seeing some places it hasn't seen in quite a while. However, I still think there will be enough time to get one more arc. I like the play by JWM basically stalling the board. Mm-hmm. Very good on their part to stall this as long as they can. I think in this case, the arc carrier needed to take the slightly risky play of marching that arc to the Shrine of War, because then, look up at the Shrine of War. If all these marches had gone to the Shrine of War, It would have been a little bit more risky,
Mm-hmm.
but don't you think that with those 50 marches, they wouldn't have lost the Shrine of War just now?
Probably. It's a good
Probably,
thought.
right? So, I mean, taking these more risky plays, I think, are really critical here. And there's still enough time, though, to get one more arc with 19 minutes. This thing's about to cap. It'll be about 8.5 minutes or so before the next arc spawns in. That'll give them about 10 minutes. I guess slightly more than 11 minutes, 11 and a half minutes
Mm-hmm.
to capture this next arc. That is enough time, assuming they don't do another
The World
uh,
Tour.
world tour before they drop it off, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that isn't going to be enough. At 680 points per minute for JWM, it's now 710 points per minute for JWM. That is not going to be enough. So they've got to up the structure game, and they've got to do that real fast.
Well, they're about to flood 50 more armies back into their repertoire to start some rallies up again. So that's going to help NBA1 for sure. In fact, just as I say that, there's a rally coming out right now, an Attila Takeda rally to try and take the Shrine of War back that was lost to JWM, while simultaneously we've got, again, JWM heavily assaulting this the Sky Altar at the top. Wu holding it currently, but with this massive swarm from all these players from JWM, you've got this going to go down really quickly. And just like that, it is now again in JWM's hands. There is very little field support from NBA1 to go ahead and swarm this back down. And not only that, there's still tons of armies on the field and probably a full Sky Altar for JWM as well. They're doing exactly what they need to do. Even if NBA1 gets this next arc, like you said, as long as JWM keeps the points per minute game at least even, I mean, it's going to be very hard for NBA1 to pull some magic out.
Yeah, from this position, they would have to take all the altars and hold them, and maybe take the opposing side Shrine of War too, and then hold all of them until the end of the match in order to win, and get the arc, and score the arc, by the way. So how would you do that from this position? I feel like you need to have a huge group, swarms the nearby Sky Altar, pushes forward to the opposing side, swarms the Desert Altar, swings around the back, goes to the center, battles at the Temple of Osiris. I mean, it's a stretch. It's definitely a stretch, especially if you look at the map and see the positioning of JWM. They're just not going to afford NBA1 that opportunity. They're applying their own pressure right now to the Desert Altar on the southern side of the map with a bunch of marches heading down that way. I just don't know how they could get enough structures from here.
Yeah, I think you just answered your question. What do they do right in this position? Well, they do what JWM's doing and has been the whole match. They're sending rallies with massive reinforcement in the open field. The reinforcement is there as the rally hits or right before. That way, they're not sitting there waiting for reinforcements and waiting for swarm support. And then again, they just take the structure and let them hold it as long as possible. And then, yeah, go ahead and take it back. We're going to do the same thing right back again. As soon as that switches to a different color, I'm going to send the rally and we're going to do it all over again. It's really straightforward. It's a very simple strategy that's very effective. And again, I think JWM had this kind of strategy for the most part in their Osiris League, but wasn't able to quite effectively pull it off because of the garrison and reinforcement capabilities of HKL. NBA1, however, again, just looking where you were talking about earlier, that Desert Altar at the bottom, it's still for NBA1 right now, but look how many armies are here instead of up towards JWM territory to support the rally that's walking right by them.
Yeah, I think they are now in NBA1 starting to do what I was kind of advising. They've got a rally, they got a huge group, it's marching across the field. They have to take the Shrine of War. And honestly, they also need to take the Sky Altar, which I don't see a force amassing to do that. And then they've got to swing their way around here into the center. And they got to do the same thing on the other side, which they are actually starting to do. I just don't know that they're going to outnumber or outmatch JWM, who seems to have about the same amount of people in the same place, probably thinking the exact same thing.
Yep, and again, as soon as that rally and that big swarm of people are heading towards the JWM side, look what's blinking behind them. You got two buildings blinking behind them. It's pretty rough on your morale and on your thought process whenever you're trying to organize a push forward. Now this Attila rally is by itself because JWM open field marches are intercepting all of that support coming from NBA1's side, and now it's bogged down. Instead of swarming the structure and doing that surround bonus that you were talking about and doing more damage to these open field marches, they're actually now stuck underneath it not supporting the structure or the rally at all against that structure. And that Attila rally is going down pretty quick because it's got debuff against it and it's got an Artemisia garrison to support it.
Now, what can we take away looking at the open field about the marches that are most optimal based on what people are bringing here and what that would tell us about what they think about what's good?
Well, you've got a lot of nuke here from JWM. There's a lot of Guans, which is going to give you some silencing capability. You've got a lot of Edwards and Tamirises that's going to debuff for skill damage quite heavily. You've got a lot of Ramses, which again, if there's a lot of tank on the open field, if there's a Richard, that's why they're there. They're going to go ahead and target those Richards so that they don't heal as much and die quicker. I actually do see an Artemisia army on the open field. I don't know if that was the garrison from the Shrine of War that just got held or what, but Artemisia, I saw in the match that you and Gecko were casting earlier today, was was basically hurting herself attacking a march that was coming down the side of the lane there. So that was kind of interesting to watch. Lots of NBA1 marches going back, basically smashed. So I don't see really much going back for JWM side at all. And you can see, again, Ramses, Guan, Genghis, Edward versus there's an Attila here as well versus Edwards and Constantines and Genghises and a lot more Ramses, some Saladins in there too. I saw. So I mean, JWM's just kind of holding the field a little bit better. I don't know if it's necessarily a combination of commander thing or a talent tree thing, or maybe it just could be a communication thing. JWM has been playing together a long time, targeting specific commanders quickly, first, in the right order. Maybe that's the play.
Well, I will say this. I like that NBA1 is pushed down the field. They no longer have the time, if you look up north, to go and snag the Desert Altar, which I wish for them that they could go and do because I think they need it to win. And now they're ducking down toward the Temple of Osiris because they're out of time. We see JWM has fired off really early the War Drums buff in order to give themselves some extra attack. NBA1 responds, giving themselves extra defense, and the battle at the Temple of Osiris begins. JWM in a really solid position between, got themselves between the Ark and the enemy. So the folks in NBA1 are going to have to battle through this massive JWM players if they want to get to the Temple of Osiris. Although, because of the angle of attack of NBA1, it doesn't look like the carrier has quite as much of a free reign of where they get to go. They've kind of got to take it to the left, and that's the only way they can run this thing.
Yep, and then you do have NBA1 coming in from the bottom again. This basically looks exactly like the play from the first arc. However, a lot more support coming to the middle from NBA1. And Chisco, I mean, again, like we talked about it earlier, the points per minutes are starting to even up a little bit. Still in JWM's favor because taking structures and holding them is detrimental to NBA1 getting to even. But, with all these marches in the middle, you see a lot of smashed NBA1 marches going back versus maybe just one or two for JWM. This is where we're going to start to see JWM really just kind of press the field, and they're spreading out. You can see it by all the swirlies that we've got going on in the middle here. It looks like a kaleidoscope of crazy right here in the middle with all these marches. Buildings blinking red on the red side, JWM rallying those structures, or swarming, versus again, just having one blue structure start to blink here for JWM. They're still pressing the initiative as JWM, and I think NBA1's kind of all in on this is our arc and we've got to have it, which they do. But they also, just as importantly, need to keep all their structures and take a few as well.
But JWM grabs the arc. I'm a little surprised that the folks in NBA1 weren't able to get around the Temple of Osiris and own that position a little more cleanly, because now that arc carrier is on the move. And they have broken out of the pack. Edward, the carrier, taking some damage as he moves and falls. So now the arc is starting to make its way toward the JWM side of the map, and we'll see who picks it up from here. I think at this point, even if JWM doesn't capture it, stalling it is more than enough. And I feel like NBA1 is in a tough spot. If they commit too much to this arc grab, then they're definitely not going to get the structures. They're definitely going to lose. If they don't get this arc, they're definitely going to lose, as now the carrier is moving and falls yet again JWM inching this thing slowly to their side of the map.
Yeah, and again, you can see the buff still, right? Like you called it earlier, JWM starting their buff very early in the middle, and now you can see the colors have changed. They've swapped the buffs. You've got the red team NBA1 going ahead and swapping their buff to the War Drums buff, and then you've also got the defensive buff for JWM now activating too. So they're cycling their stuff. They're doing what they're supposed to do. More marches coming in from the left side there from NBA1, trying desperately to get this arc in favor of NBA1, but right now it's continuing to stay JWM. Box has it right now with his Attila, goes down again. They're doing exactly what they need to do to win this game. All of these alliances, Chisco, I think that they have all the potential to be, could have been the reigning champion of their respective realms whenever we were doing Osiris League. And we're going to see these types of battles where sometimes it's a matter of playing together, or sometimes it's a matter of just having the right talent trees, or something similar to that. Whereas, this is all even. You have commanders on both sides even. You've got buffs on both sides even. You've got everything even. This is about strategy, and sometimes a little bit of experience goes a long way with that.
Yeah, definitely the case here. Multiple people trying to grab the arc. I do like that you see a timer now over the folks' heads for grabbing the
Mm-hmm.
arc. That is kind of cool to see that countdown. The arc in the hands of NBA1. They're now able to hopefully move this down to their side of the field. They, however, drop the arc. And look, there's so much area of effect damage taking place here. But if I zoom way out, you know what I see a lot of? I see a lot of blue dots and not a lot of red dots. It seems like, to your observation earlier, a lot of the marches from NBA1 were getting those trips home compared to the ones in blue. So what is blue using here? I see a ton of Ramses. I see Edwards. I see Saladins. I see Khans. I see Attila and Takeda. I see a few Alexander the Great, a lot of Guan.
A lot of Guan. Yeah, that's exactly right. That AoE, and of course, I mean, Guan just gets that much more powerful whenever it's hitting more than 2 targets. When maxed out, of course, everybody has a max Guan in this instance. So you're going to get a lot of benefit AoE wise out of Guan, and if you pair him up with an Alex, not only that, but you're supporting your alliance by throwing shields like crazy all over the place for the lowest hit point army around you, or if you're pairing it with YSG, it's just double trouble on that AoE damage that you're pumping out. Or you can pair him with Richard to keep him a little more tanky. Or you can, I mean, there's so many combinations that you can use with these newer commanders that have come out over the last 6-7 months, and especially with this mode in mind. Ark of Osiris in the middle lane, it's crazy town nonsense when it comes to how many armies you're going to be able to hit with a single AoE. Maximum of 5, of course, but when you've got 25 on each side, those 5 can rotate around and start getting some serious damage put on them.
Yeah, Carrier moving it slightly toward the JWM side of the map. JWM looking pretty firmly in control of this field, although there's still fighting. A lot of folks from NBA1 making their way in, and what a grab. This Carrier is really moving fast. Drops briefly. Nice, quick grab there. They're going to need a lot more of those with only 6 minutes and 40 seconds remaining. There's absolutely still time left on the clock to score this arc for either side, but there's not going to be enough time to catch up on the structure game either way, which JWM is winning, and they get control of the arc yet again.
Yep, and again, still things not only just from a structure game standpoint, they're taking buildings again. JWM took the Shrine of Life and the Sky Altar on the top side away from NBA1 while this middle scrum is happening. And just looking at the map here in the middle, JWM has the field presence. I mean, they've got more players on the field than NBA1 does. And as I say that, Jemmy picks it up for JWM, starting to move it back as well. You've got more NBA1 pouring in from the middle. They know that they would, if they want to possibly win, they need this, but they're really at this point with just over 5.5 minutes left in the match. This is pretty much a foregone conclusion with basically 11,000 point delta or difference in this match. Just fights at this point, watching the middle, seeing some of the structures go in favor of JWM behind it. What do you think contributed so much to JWM's success in this match, Jiskel?
I think they played more aggressive than NBA1 did, and that aggression paid off. I think that JWM did a slightly better job of not overcommitting marches to any one activity, and it seemed like NBA1 had a large group of troops together a lot of the time, which I thought was really cool to watch, but was not as effective, it seems, in doing all of the different things that needed to get done. And so I think the story for me in this matchup is kind of an overcommitment on the part of NBA1 to the activities they were doing, rather than having just enough to get the job done, which is something that is not easy to figure out, but HKL, as an example of another alliance, just does that so insanely well.
Yeah, I tend to agree with what you're saying there. They seem to have executed their plan a little bit better. NBA1 did a fantastic job at the beginning. I wasn't shocked, but I was definitely impressed with how they did, and they finished taking the Desert Altar at the top lane and the Shrine of War on the bottom lane, and then all those armies poured into the middle right behind JWM. I'm like, oh no, this is HKL all over again. And then JWM just basically smashed them on the field. It was relatively easily handled. JWM went ahead and grabbed the arc and just moseyed it on back to their structure with no problems whatsoever. So there was a setup there where NBA1 could have done some significant morale and just in general damage to JWM right there off the bat by being able to snag that arc away from them without having anybody in the field in the middle right at the beginning of when that arc was being captured. And it just kind of slipped through their fingers. They just could not own the field there. JWM swarmed everything down to a T. And just like what's happening right now, look at how many JWM are on the field in this one spot. 3.5 minutes left with the match, with having the arc as well. Box carrying it for at least another second or two before he likely will drop it right there. So, yeah, great job to JWM. They executed their plan. NBA1 executed at the beginning, but just did not get that last piece, which was we have to actually kill them.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I don't see different marches really in the
Yeah.
field on the part of NBA1. But for whatever reason, they seem to not be as effective there. And I wonder if when we see the stats at the end, if that will be represented in the kills and wounds.
I can almost guarantee you that that's exactly how it's going to be represented. You're going to see probably an extra 5 to 10 million kills on JWM's side, at least, is my guess. The over under I set at about 7 or 8 million kills for JWM being in the positive. And again, we saw it the whole match, not only from the rallies. I might be underselling it actually now that I'm thinking about it, but the rallies, but not only that, but the open field. The open field we've seen time and time again. JWM just owning the open field, especially in the middle. Like whenever it was an even-ish scrum in the middle to school, it just seemed JWM won every time.
Yeah, I wonder, maybe I have to rewatch the footage to try to figure out if maybe the secondary commanders are different, or maybe it's just the talent builds are different. But it did seem to be significant, the difference in the effectiveness in the open field here.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think at this point, everybody's kind of understanding that the match is done. Just under 2 minutes left. Got 12,000 point delta here. Capturing the Ark of Osiris is JWM, now a 16,000 point almost difference in favor, of course, of JWM. Looks like there's a rally that got destroyed there with some swarm around it. We see some sad faces going back, getting smashed for JWM. But now that everybody's kind of over here by the Ark for JWM, NBA1 does take the Shrine of War over here and keeps it with Leonidas garrisoning, which is a decent garrison if properly reinforced and filled, especially against an anti-skill commander, or especially with field support with Genghis and things like that. So we'll see how that actually stays. I do see a Ramses Artemisia hitting that too, which is actually going to be pretty devastating for the Leonidas as well. So we'll see how that goes, at least for a little bit. I think that's definitely going to go down.
Yeah, I mean, I think to kind of summarize what we saw here, the name of the game is the right number of marches in the right place at the right time. And you get that, and you'll do extremely well. The challenge to that is figuring out how you change your game plan on the fly to react to what the opposing side is doing. And what I think happened in this matchup and what we saw in the last matchup with HKL is they said, well, rather than try to react to what the opposing side is doing to get just the right number of marches. We'll just be the aggressor, since it's a lot easier to do that than it is to try to change the plan and react. And it works really well.
It definitely does. Just counting down these last 10 seconds with 5 seconds remaining. Good job to JWM for the victory here. Good job to both teams. And from what I'm reading in the chat here, it looks like, and we're going to go take a peek at those things, it looks like there's a little bit of an advantage for one of the realms. We're going to take a peek at that very shortly. Most valuable player, Justin, saw a lot of his rallies going out throughout the match for JWM getting the top player here. And let's jump into the breakdown of the matchup. Chisco, I'm going to let you go ahead and start it off. 42,630 points for JWM against 25,717 for NBA1. What do you notice?
Well, first of all, City Keeper MVP. I thought that was pretty funny to see on the previous screen. So, looking at the scoreboard, the occupation score was really the key here. And that was the case in the last match that we cast on the channel, and it is the case again. I do think JWM has a very impressive provisioning score as well, which is very noteworthy, because not only were they in all these places doing all these things, but they also had some folks for style points going around and gathering resources at a rate of literally double what NBA pulled down. And it was not nearly as much of a difference on the battlefield in terms of kills and wounds as I really was expecting, which to me indicates that it is really about the right marches in the right places rather than having dominated in the field per se, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes a lot of sense. And I was shocked. I was honestly shocked. I had the number way higher than that. And maybe it's about perspective too. Maybe, the places that I was looking and we were looking together and going through the rallies and seeing these things get done, maybe in the other spots on the map, it is a large map. Maybe NBA1 was dominating on the field over in those positions, and we just weren't able to see it because maybe it wasn't in the right place. They weren't dominating in the right place. And I think that's what really leads to JWM winning all 3 categories: the Ark of Osiris score, the occupation score, and ultimately, again, the provisions score, which did contribute a little bit to the overall point total. So JWM even throwing some healing troops in there too. I mean, okay, that they were definitely doing some things different than I would have expected. But they did pull out the victory, and very well done to both teams here. Congratulations to JWM for scoring a point for the realm of Horus. Anything you want to leave us with, Chisco, before we go and wrap it up?
I think extremely well played by both sides. Really appreciate the opportunity to cast this match on the official Rise of Kingdoms channel to watch both of these exceptional teams play ball. Had a lot of fun doing that. Congratulations again to JWM on the victory, and best of luck to both teams in their next matchups, which will be next week.
Yeah, thank you, Chisco. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the main Osiris Invitational screen so we can see how the other 2 matches did, and we can recap the first weekend of the Osiris Invitational Season 1, Round 1, inaugural season, whatever you want to call it. We're going to go ahead and do a quick recap of that, and then we'll go ahead and wrap the stream up, guys. Thank you, Chisco, for joining. I appreciate you. All right, everybody, I am back, and it looks like the Realm of Horus scoring 3 points for the first weekend of the Osiris Invitational Round 1. Realm of Anubis getting a point from 411K, their victors from the Osiris League Season 2. We've got JWM 2 losing to 411K, HKL, JWM, and OV all winning points for the Realm of Horus. As we look towards the next weeks, right, we've got the matches here that we can take a peek at. Some very good matches coming to, next week, including a matchup of champions, guys. We've got in the 15 UTC hour next weekend, JWM. Well, I take that back. 411K. Which week is it? I know I saw it. It was 411K versus 411K versus HKL at the very end of the week. So runner-up JWM against 411K. I apologize for next week. And that's going to be a really great matchup. NBA1, who did a very good job against JWM here, but just falling up a little bit short, going up against their sister alliance, JWM2. Then we've got HKL against NCB. And then finally, FN versus OV. OV doing a great job, from what I understand, in the final matchup. Last that just ended here shortly a little bit ago. So OV scoring some points for Realm of Horus, JWM scoring points for Horus, and of course HKL in that first 13 UTC matchup scoring points for Realm of Horus, while 411K putting the single point on the board for the Realm of Anubis. I hope you guys have enjoyed this stream. We love bringing these things to you. Again, we are all sponsored content creators for Rise of Kingdoms, and we have enjoyed bringing this to you. And hopefully we're going to join us next week as we do this again. Go ahead and bring some more live action-packed Osiris Invitational matches your way. We'll see you then and next time. Cheers. Have a good one and take care, guys.